Hi, hello there, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a book tag. I've never done a book tag before, but they look pretty fun and fairly easy because you just look at the prompts and then talk about books that you really love that fit those prompts. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. First, I'm going to be cleaning my glasses off because they are smudgy. The life of a chaotic book goblin that cannot see is having perpetually smudgy reading glasses. But yeah, I'm going to be doing the in and out book tag, and I saw this book tag over at Book Chats with Pat. She is a great booktube channel. She used to be a teacher, and she has all sorts of wonderful insights and a really calming presence, a really rational voice here on YouTube. So I will put her channel below and link to her video. I think this is a fairly old book tag, like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, but like these things are evergreen. So we're just gonna jump right into it. But the book tag is, the in and out book tag is mostly tropes and other just like bookish habits or bookish things, and you kind of give your own opinion on these things, whether you're in with the bookish trope or you're out. So in is like, yeah, I'm for it, I love it 100%. Out is like, no thanks, that's not for me. And before we start, I need to preface this by saying I will never turn down a book just because it is one of these things. I think that you can have a 5-star book in any of these categories. Even if I say, ooh, I'm out, that's not my favorite, there is still a book that has that trope or that bookish thing, and I will read it, and I will rate it 5 stars. And I'm going to be giving recommendations with those tropes that maybe are not my favorite today, just to prove that point, and also to give you book recommendations, because that is the point of the book channel here. But let's just jump right into this list of, let me see how many prompts there are. Quite a few. 26 different prompts and tropes that we're going to go through today. But like I said, none of these things, no matter how much of an ick they give me, none of these things will turn me off from reading a book. I will avoid them, and I know that they're not my favorite, but there's always potential to find a 5-star out there. Okay, first prompt is reading the last page first. This is out for me. I don't do this. I've never done this. I maybe did it once or twice when I was a kid. And then I quickly learned that was not fun for me, so I don't do this. I do know that there are some people who will do this to see if like their favorite character survives, because they have a lot of anxiety, or they know that they don't want to read the book if like a certain thing happens, or they just have a different way of reading books and they want to read the last page first. I know there are people who do this. For me, personally, it's out. The second prompt is enemies to lovers, and I'm also out with this trope. I don't think that a lot of enemies to lovers books work. Either the people are not truly enemies, they're just kind of like don't like each other in the beginning, which I think as like a person who is wary of other people, a lot of times I can start pretty much all of my relationships not liking people. All of my friendships and relationships, I start off not liking the person anyway. But I wouldn't say that all of my relationships are enemies to lovers in my personal life. I think that the books written that are considered enemies to lovers don't really start off as enemies, and the ones that do have an unrealistic and strange growth of relationship. But I do have a recommendation for this and of this trope, and it is one of my favorite books ever, and that is This Is How You Lose the Time War. This is truly enemies to lovers because we have our two main characters. Red and Blue are what they're called in this book, and they are at the beginning on different sides of a cosmic war that is being waged through time and space. They are truly enemies. The first page is them trying to kill each other. And by the end of this book, they are in love, and they have a beautiful love story told through kind of what you would call letters, but they're not the type of letters that you would typically consider letters. So it's not really epistolary, but it is. It's a beautiful book. I love it. It is one of my favorite books. And yeah, it's a sci-fi romance. Enemies to lovers. The next trope is dream sequences. This is another out. I don't typically like dream sequences because I want to be following the story that is actually happening. And I don't want it to just be something that I'm invested in and then I turn the page and, oh no, it was all a dream and none of this was real. I find that extremely irritating and a little bit lazy. But another book that I can recommend for you, a whole series really, but this book in particular has many dream sequences, and the whole book really relies on these dream sequences, and a great amount of the plot is moved through the dreams, and that is The Eye of the World. What is it? Eye of the World, Wheel of Time. That's the name of the first book. The Eye of the World series, Wheel of Time. The main character has many dream sequences and they are important. And that was a really good classic fantasy book. I would recommend to anyone who is willing to jump into a ginormous series. It's fantastic. Chosen one, it's great. Number 4 is Love Triangle. Again, I feel like I'm out on all of these tropes. Love triangles for me are typically out. I just find them unrelatable. I personally can never really romantically love two people at once. I'm definitely one of those gals who's like, I'm all in one person, that's it. And so the idea of oh, there's these two people and I love them both and who do I choose? And one is kind of different than the other. It's just kind of I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know. I just don't like love triangles. I don't like reading about them. I don't really need to have a reason, do I? I do have a book with a love triangle in it, though, that I can recommend and I really enjoyed. And this might be cheating a little because it's a love triangle that turns into something else. And that is Iron Widow. This is a science fiction book about giant war machines that can transform into animal-like, killing robots that are ridden by and controlled by these pilots who kind of mind meld with their consorts, I suppose you could call them. These women that ride along with them. Anyway, it's this big thing about how there's this woman, she becomes a pilot even though it's taboo, and there's a love triangle in it. It's also a trilogy, but the love triangle is really nice because it is a love triangle that kind of turns into a why choose trope that then turns into polyamory. A really beautiful polyamory relationship. I've never read any other polyamory fiction that I know that I can think of that I enjoyed. So this is really interesting. It's an interesting one for me to recommend. Transforming war machines that are fighting aliens, Asian-inspired culture with polyamory between our 3 main characters. It's great. I don't know what to tell you. It's great. I can't really explain too much about it because it is a trilogy, but it's wonderful. Trope number 5, bookish thing number 5 is cracked spines. And I would have to say, when I am reading a book, I do avoid cracking the spine for as long as possible. But once it's cracked, I do not despair. I have so many cracked spines on my shelf, so I have to say that this one is in. I am in for cracked spines. I will pick up a used book at the thrift store and buy it despite it having a cracked spine. I actually have one of my most cracked spines here to show you. This is a collection of short stories by O. Henry. I've had this since I was a wee child. My dad used to read me one of these short stories every night for a while there, but she is so cracked, you can see, you can hardly, it's kind of almost falling apart. It's so cracked, but this is one of my most beloved books that I own. I'm never going to get rid of it just because it has a cracked spine. But yeah, cracked spines, I'm in for that one. Next trope is back to my small town, and this is in. I like this this trope a lot. A lot of times it is Birdie is going to knock over these books. Honey. She's such a troublemaker. I think that this trope is usually associated with small town romances, which I don't really read, but the trope itself of just a character returning back home to their small town where the plot unfolds is a great trope. One of my favorite books that has this trope is called Faithful Place by Brain blank. Tana French. I forgot her name for a second. Tana French is the author of Faithful Place. This is the story of a detective who returns to his small town, his small Irish town, and the suitcase is found of his high school girlfriend, who everyone thought had run away when they were young, and it is instead found in an abandoned building that is being demolished, I think. So he has to solve the mystery of what happened and where she is. And it's very good. Tana French is a wonderful mystery thriller author. I love all of her stuff. It's pretty gritty, but I like it a lot. So yeah, small town, returning back home to my little community is a great trope. Number 7 is monsters are regular people. I love this trope, totally in. I think that this is a great message too, of just like stereotypes are not always correct. My recommendation for this one, I'd have to say, is a little bit interesting. I think this counts as monsters, but this is more demons, I suppose. And that is The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And this is a collection of letters being told from kind of like a higher up, higher authority demon to like his apprentice, telling him how to go about the very, I don't know, like it's like an office job of trying to tempt and seduce the people of the world to cause their damnation. And it is very funny, but it is also very poignant as well. And it is kind of just like notes from like a teacher to an apprentice. So they're very normal things. They talk to each other like very normal people. So I think that it's a great example of monsters are real people. Now, this is not an example of monsters are good. It's not like, oh, you thought this person was terrible, but it's actually a moral, upstanding thing. But it is a monsters are normal. I think that both renditions of the trope are excellent. Prompt number 8. I don't think I've ever, I'm sure I have experienced it, but it doesn't clock in my mind of ever having read a book like this. I'm sure I have, but it was so insignificant to me that I don't remember. And that is no paragraph breaks. It's just blocks of text. So it would have to be a book with like no dialogue, I suppose, or the dialogue is not formatted in the traditional sense. It might be irritating to me at first, but I don't generally have a problem with formatting issues. They don't bother me. So I guess I'm in for this one, or maybe I'm just indifferent. And I don't have an example of this because I couldn't think of a book, and I'm pretty sure I don't own a book either, of a book that has no paragraph breaks. I think that this one is probably a big no for a lot of people. I don't think it bothers me. Number 9 is multi-generational saga. Generally, these are not my favorite books. I will not avoid them, but I have to be in the mood. So I guess I'm in for this one. Yeah, I'd say yes. I don't always pick them up immediately because I can find them to be a bit boring sometimes, and generally the pacing is off for me, but not always. So I guess I'm a light in. I'm in just a toe, if that makes sense. And my recommendation for this is Pachinko. This is a great book. It's a multi-generational saga about a Korean family. It starts with a young Korean woman, and it moves throughout her whole life until she is a very old woman. All of her children, her children's children, the people that marry into her family. And it is about the Japanese discrimination against Koreans. It's a historical fiction novel, and it is really beautiful, and it's very moving, and it's also very engaging. You really care for these characters, and you get wrapped up in their lives. And so this is a great book. Wonderful. I think I read it last year or maybe the year before. Still recommending it. Number 10 is rereading. I'm in. I love rereading. I hardly ever do it, and that is because there are so many good books out there that I just feel like I'm trying to constantly catch up to read as many books as possible before I finally kick the bucket, if you know what I mean. I'm like, I don't have time to reread. I have all of these new books to consume, but I will reread, and I think it is incredibly comforting and healing to reread, and I'm totally for it. I wish that I had infinite amount of time so that I could both reread my favorites all of the time and also consume all of the new content as well. Content? That seems like such a weird word for what I mean. All the new literature. I do have a book here that I make time to reread every single year, and that is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I read other books as well, but this one I will pretty systematically reread every single year in December. It's just part of what I have made, I don't know, my life. My life is this book being reread all the time. We will, as a family, often go to a play or a theater production of A Christmas Carol. And I don't know, I love this story. It's not, when you read the book, it's not straightforward as you think it is. It's not always what the adaptations and renditions show it to be, but I love this book and I reread it every year, and I am 100% for rereading books. Prompt number 11 is artificial intelligence, and I don't know what they meant by this prompt. If they meant reading books that have been generated by AI, I'm out. Clearly, like so out. I mean, I'm so out that you could throw me into a cannon and propel my body into outer space. I'm out. Like, I don't know why this would be a thing, but if that's what they meant, I'm out. But if it means a book discussing the themes of and maybe following the plot around artificial intelligence, I'm totally in. I think that's a fascinating plot idea or theme to read about. Love it. My suggestion for that would be Clara and the Sun. This is one of my favorite science fictions. I think that Kazuo Ishiguro is a phenomenal author. This is a story about Clara, and she is a companion, an artificial intelligence companion for a child. And in this world, these are fairly common, almost accessories that many well-off people purchase so that their child can have a companion to grow up with them. And it's the story of Clara and how she grapples with her existence and also this strange world that she lives in. And I did cry at the end of this book. I don't think that it's necessarily a book that will make everyone cry. It's not like a tearjerker across the board, but it was so beautifully written that I did cry. I would really recommend that one. Prompt number 12 is drop caps. I'm in for this one. I like anything in books that is illustrative and engages the visual part of my brain. Drop caps, if you don't know what that means, let me find one, is when like the beginning of a section or like a paragraph has like the big capital letter and then the rest is normal font. This is my copy of the Scarlet Letter. So yeah, drop caps are like the big letter and then the little letters, that's what that means. And I like this. I think that it is fun. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm not sure why it would bother anyone. I didn't think that this was a contentious subject, but if it is, I'm for it. Keep doing it. Prompt number 13 is happy endings. And of course I'm in. Like, everybody loves happy endings, right? I thought that that was generally a good thing. Maybe some people dislike them. I do tend to read pretty dark, heavy books sometimes, and I can be melancholic in my reading. I will pick up a super sad book and I will enjoy it and rate it 5 stars. Probably more commonly than I would pick up a pretty happy-go-lucky happy ending book, but I still love a happy ending. And one of my favorite books that has a happy ending is Far from the Madding Crowd. And I think that I like this book particularly because it reads like it's going to be sad, but it ends up so happy in the end that it's almost a surprise, and it's lovely. But yeah, I would suggest this one. Also, I think there's a pretty good movie adaptation of Far from the Madding Crowd as well, which is really sweet. So you should watch that if you can't get through the book. Not like it's a difficult book to get through, but it is classic. Prompt number 14 is plot points that only converge at the ending. I'm so in. I think. Now, I don't like it when there is like some crazy twist at the end of a mystery or a thriller book that you're just like, well, how are we supposed to figure that out? That's just bizarre. I don't like super bizarre twists that don't make sense, but kind of conveniently wrap up everything. I feel like that can kind of be a little bit lazy. Sometimes it works. Like a lot of the Hercule Poirot books by Agatha Christie have that feeling where you're just like, I'm so confused. And at the end, Poirot's like, here is the ending and this is how it happened. And you're like, what? That didn't make any sense. I would have never guessed. And those are still really great and fun to read. But I do like this. I am in. And my example for this that is maybe the most out of left field book that I can think of, where I was reading it and the whole way through I'm just like, what are any of these plot lines doing? Like, they're engaging and I'm like kind of wondering what's going on, but like confused, and there's so many characters. There obviously are main characters in this book, but there are also just kind of like 12 side characters that are very important to the story, and that's a lot of characters. And they all have their own plot lines that you're following, and you're like, when are these going to make sense? And at the end, it all converges, and your brain explodes with how much it makes sense, and it's genius. And I don't know how it works, but it does. I mean, like Eleanor Catton, I watched an interview that she did about this book, and she did so much study and prep to make this work. This is an excellent book. It can be hard to get into because it has just like, it is a bit jumbled and it seems a little boring, but once you get even just a fourth of the way into it, I was so hooked. I read this like I was on fire. It was amazing. I think this is a great book to read just for its actual intellectual accomplishment. But yeah, Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. All of the plot points converging at the end. Number 15 is a detailed magic system. Generally, I am out for this one. I don't like fantasy books where the magic is super detailed and has a certain set of rules. I find it constricting, and it does pull me out of the mystery, or not the mystery, it pulls me out of the story a bit. One example of the books that I really, really dislike that has a detailed magic system is Mistborn. Oof, I didn't like that at all. It just doesn't hit with me. I think that if a magic system has too many rules that it follows, it just seems like bizarre science, and then it's not magical anymore. But however, I did really, really enjoy Babel, and Babel has a very detailed magic system with rules, but it really gave something to the story, and I really enjoyed Babel. So I can recommend that one. But generally, I don't like detailed magic systems. However, the next fantasy trope on this list is classic fantasy races, like elves, goblins, dwarves, things like that. And I would say I'm in. And of course, I have the classic, my beloved The Hobbit here. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is the very first one I can think of. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the fantasy of all fantasies. However, I was trying to think, and I haven't really read many books that have the classic fantasy races in them, and I think that's because I haven't read a lot of like classic books or series from the 80s and 90s, and those were the books that had a lot of these classic races in them, and they were so heavily used in all of the fantasy novels that we made a really hard turn into unusual fantasy races or creating creatures that haven't been seen too much before in fantasy, and that is kind of where our literature is sitting right now. It's kind of lying in this this new exploration of fantasy races with like the different type of fae, and like Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales or Encyclopedia of Fairies has lots of like interesting fairy characters and doesn't lean too heavily on the classic ones. But I do want to read more. Now that I was thinking of this prompt getting ready for this video, I was like, I want to read more books with classic fantasy races in them. And so I think I might pick up, is it The Goblin Emperor? I think it might be like my next high fantasy dive in. But I do generally like the classic fantasy races. You know, like when I was a kid when I was young, Lord of the Rings was my jam. They were my favorite books, and my whole entire imaginary world was just full of elves and goblins and dwarves, and I kind of would love to enter that sort of comforting space. So I'm gonna pick up the Goblin Emperor in the future. Number 17 is Unreliable Narrators. I really like Unreliable Narrators, if it's done well, of course. And so this is definitely in my favorite Unreliable Narrator book. I don't know if it's my favorite, but one of my favorites is Turn of the Screw. And this is so good. I don't know. I think it's because when you are reading it, you don't realize, and this is true of a lot of Unreliable Narrators, when you're reading it, you don't realize that she's unreliable until almost the end. And then you're like, wait, and you have to backtrack throughout the whole book and question everything that she said. I mean, this is true of any Unreliable Narrator book, but Turn of the Screw is exquisitely done. It's fairly short. We have a governess. She's been hired by kind of like a mysterious man to watch over and take care of these two kids, and these kids seem to be or are haunted by something in their house, and she has to protect them from this thing that is haunting them, according to her, of course. So I love Unreliable Narrators. Number 18, we have Evil Protagonists. I like interesting protagonists. So for this, I would say I'm in. If an evil protagonist is interesting, I love it. The best evil protagonist book that I can think of is The Portrait of Dorian Gray. Dorian Gray is arguably quite evil. He's just a nasty guy, and he is the protagonist of the story, and we follow his life, and it is fascinating and good and juicy, and he's quite evil, and I love it. And most people will agree that it's a great book. But yeah. Number 19, we have The Chosen One. I think I'm out for this. I think The Chosen One is a little bit of a tired trope. If it delves a little bit into a good reluctant hero story, I will get behind it. Kind of like the Aragorn in the films, not the books, but the film Aragorn type character where he is the chosen one to become the king of Gondor, but he's like, his journey into that role is fraught with self-doubt and all these things. I really do enjoy that. The book Aragorn is a different character, but generally the chosen one type books, I think the book can still be good, but I don't necessarily love the chosen one character. I think that's what it is. However, I just read The Deep recently, and this is an interesting chosen one because The Deep is about a community of merfolk type creatures. They're kind of like mermaids. And this chosen one character, she has been picked, or chosen, because she is the chosen one, to hold all of her people's memories from the very beginning. Kind of similar to like The Giver, if you read The Giver, but she holds this very heavy responsibility of holding all of the memories and all of the past pain of her peoples so that they can all survive and move on. But like her life is obviously very difficult with this responsibility, and it's a really interestingly done book. And I could recommend it. It's a Black author and features Black characters, and Black culture and history is woven in there as well. It's a really good book. It's a really good book, and I read that one quite recently, and I liked it a lot. Prompt 20, we have When the Protagonist Dies. I'm not going to recommend a book for this because I don't want to spoil any, but like I'm generally in. Like I said, I read really sad books, and I like when a beloved character dies. I love that emotional tug. Some classics that can't really be spoiled because they're so old are like Of Mice and Men, Romeo and Juliet, things like that. It just makes for a good story. It makes for a good story. Number 21, Really Long Chapters. This is one where I'm not really in or out. I don't notice chapters. I'm not one of those people that has to finish a chapter before they put the book down. I can stop reading at any point. I can pick up at any point. I don't follow chapters as a guide, really. I use them as kind of like mental markers of knowing where to pick up the book. Like if I am listening to an audiobook, I use the chapters to just like, I don't know, if I lose my place or something, which happens often when I am like falling asleep. Sometimes I'll fall asleep while listening to an audiobook, and then I'll wake up and be like, oh damn, I gotta stop falling asleep. I gotta go back to the beginning of this chapter and pause it. That's pretty much the only time I use chapters. So but chapters being really long in a book doesn't bother me. I don't care for them or not care for them either way. But one book that has incredibly long chapters that I love is Cider House Rules by John Irving. I feel like John Irving in general just writes ridiculously long chapters. Even I do not notice chapters. However, when I was reading this book, I was like, I think I've been reading this chapter for a long time. And I'd look and be like, yep, it's been a really long time since this chapter started. But it is still so good and so worth it. It doesn't, like, try your very best to get through this. If long chapters bother you, just stick with it. Break it up into mini chapters in your head if you have to. It's so good. Has a lot to say about like women's rights historically and medical consent and all sorts of beautiful things, but also just totally wrapped up in a gorgeous story. Next, we have a few bookish things that aren't necessarily tropes, and that is number 22, prompt 22, which is French flaps. And if you don't know what French flaps are, they're when you have a soft cover. This is my copy of Middlemarch. This has the next two prompts actually in one. So French flaps are when it's a soft cover, but it has kind of like this flap that turns in. So it kind of mimics a hardcover book, but it's not a hardcover book. And I really love French flaps. I think it gives the paperback a little bit more sturdiness, a little bit more stamina to hit the shelves over and over again and be flopped around a bit. I really like French flaps. And the prompt number 23 is Deckled Edges. It's the next one. And this also has deckled edges. I don't know if you can see, but it's like when the pages are not all the same width. It's kind of like some are bigger than others, so it makes kind of like a textured edge. I'm in for this too. I don't care either way. It doesn't really bother me or anything. And when I'm purchasing a book, I don't look for deckled edges or avoid them. They just are, and I like them. They can be kind of pretty, and it does make flipping through it, I think, is maybe a little bit tougher. It's not as even of a flip. That's important to you, but I like them. They're cool. I like the texture. So I'm in for deckled edges. Next one, I don't have an example. I don't think I have any books in my personal collection that are signed by the author, but the next prompt, number 24, is signed copies by the author. I'm for this. I love it. I don't generally buy signed copies if they're more expensive. If I'm at Barnes & Noble and I'm picking up a new release, which does not happen ever because I'm a broke little library mouse who has no money to pay for new releases. But if it's signed by the author, I will pick it up and I will buy it and I will treasure it. But I don't have any in my personal collection right now. And I don't pre-order signed copies, but I love them. I'm in for them. They're great. Number 25 is Dog Earing Pages. And I would have to say I'm out just because I don't do it. I used to do it all of the time. That was pretty much exclusively what I did when I was young. I think when I stopped dog earing books was when I started having to buy them on my own. And, when I was a kid, getting them from the library or my parents would buy them for me or I was gifted them, I would just dog ear them because it was the easiest thing to do. Don't have a bookmark on hand, dog ear the book. Now, since I buy all of my own books and they are, kind of representative of the many, many dollars that I have spent on them, I tend to treat them a little bit better. This is also why I try not to crack the spines. So yeah, I'm out with dog earing the pages. If you dog ear your own pages, power to you. I'm totally cool with that. It doesn't bother me when other people do it. I personally don't do it anymore. I also really love bookmarks. I love collecting them. I don't know, can you see my little, no, it's too far on the shelf. I have like a little mushroom basket full of bookmarks on my shelf. I love them. They're just great. And the chance to use a bookmark is wonderful. It's prompt 26, almost done. This is like a way longer video than I thought it was going to be. 26 is chapter titles instead of numbers. Oh, careful, Birdie. She's gonna knock over this book pile. I love this. I think that is a creative way to do chapters. I'm in for this. I actually would like to see more of this come back. The book that I'm currently reading right now, actually, which is The Humane Society for Cryptids and Creatures by Stephanie Gillis, has chapter titles instead of chapter numbers. I wish I could remember the name of the chapter that I'm on right now. I think it's The Fate of Lambros House might be the title chapter. I'll have to check and see. But I like that it gives you a little bit of a hint. It kind of piques your interest for what's going to happen in the chapter. I think they're lovely. Oh, careful, honey. I'm sitting on her cushion. It's my cushion, but she has stolen it from me, so she's a little bit feisty right now. All right. Chapter titles instead of numbers. Okay, that was the last real prompt. Number 27 is to just tag other creators. And of course, this is a really old tag. Most booktubers that have been on here for a while have done it already, I'm sure. I'm just gonna tag you. If you make videos, do this one. If you don't make videos, comment below whether you like these tropes or these things or not. Give me your opinions. I will soak them up and take them in. I love them all. But that is the in and out book tag. I hope it wasn't too long. I hope that maybe you will pick up one of these books and read them. Oh, careful. Birdie is moving the camera. She wants something. I've got to go attend to my child. But I hope that you are having a lovely time and that you keep reading as much as you can. Reading is cool and you are cool. And I love you. Keep going.